Facebook taking steps to enforce its hate speech policies, now permanently banning controversial figures and some organizations. Among the high-profile voices that the social media giant considers, quote, dangerous? Here we go. Nation of Islam leader Louis Farrakhan, InfoWars host Alex Jones, and conservative writer Milo Yiannopoulos. The company's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, saying the ban also extends to other platforms, including Instagram. So, Emily, what strikes me here is I think lots of people wonder, is this in defiance of your First Amendment rights? Or is it the case that since Facebook's not the government, a private business, they have the right to stand up and say, hey, you know what, you've incited violence and whatever our standards are, you violated them and you're gone?
They are a private company. They are not a government entity, which means that, yes, they can set their own censoring rules and policies by which they can abide. I think this is a total farce. I think this is an exercise by Facebook and Zuckerberg to make us think that they care and that they're virtuous and that they're concerned or whatever. And really, it's distracting us from the reality that they are and it is a platform that amplifies violence. And I think it's impossible to reconcile how all of a sudden they feel responsible for this content by right-wingers and, you know, one on the left or whatever, and all of a sudden they're shutting it down when they have refused every step of the way to take responsibility for their platform that live streams gang rapes and suicides and terrorist recruitment and show up in court constantly as, oh, no, we're not responsible for the content and here's why, we have nothing novel. And all of a sudden they care about this. So if I was one of the attorneys that has brought a negligence lawsuit against them or a representative that is drafting questions for the congressional inquiry, I would ask how all of a sudden they feel responsible for this content and not their content as a platform as a whole.
You know, in fact, Jesse, lots of people, I was surprised in looking at the poll numbers, people think, you know what, Facebook and these other social media sites, they just foment hate and they are not to be trusted. It's kind of shocking. Emily's onto something. A lot of people have just lost faith in them.
Well, if you don't like someone on Facebook, don't follow them. It's not that hard to figure out. And I think you're right. I think this was a PR move to say we got it under control. But there's also guys on CNN that spend their whole day calling Facebook and saying, can you ban this person? Can you please ban this person? It's pretty pathetic if you work for a media company and you're supposed to be all about free speech to spend your whole day on the phone trying to shut other people's free speech down.
Tell me that story. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I mean, there's correspondents on multiple networks that call social media companies and try to get other people thrown off.
You know why?
That's what. I know why. It's political, but that's not the point. My thing is this. I think they shouldn't ban anybody. I think they should have Farrakhan. I think they should have everybody. More freedom is better than less freedom. Unless they're actually inciting violence, I think Facebook, private company, knock them out. But once we get into nitpicking who we're going to kick off, I think it's a slippery slope.
Well, Kennedy, here's a proposition. Do you think that we as Americans, as American society, are better off without these provocateurs, these voices of incitement being there in Facebook, Instagram, where most Americans now get their news?
If you're beholden to big personalities on social media, you got a lot bigger problem than someone needing to be banned. And I don't think that this really does anything. It doesn't make the world any safer. And this notion that we have to be insulated from ideas that we disagree with or things that we find offensive, that our entire lives have to be bubble wrapped, it's actually really dangerous because at some point, an entire generation of people who've been bubble wrapped and sanitized their whole lives, they're going to be running everything. And they're going to be a bunch of cream puffs. And I'm kind of terrified for that point. And I do think that I share Snoop Dogg's frustration because I know that he was really upset that Minister Farrakhan was thrown off of Facebook and the Gram.
Minister.
That's what he calls him.
Very respectful.
Very respectful. And, I don't think this does anything. I don't think it changes people's beliefs. I don't think sanitizing it makes it better. And I agree with Emily. I think it's just a way because Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg has spent so much time in front of Congress apologizing. Oh, we're so sorry. We're going to do better. We're going to do so much better. And this just makes it look like they're doing something.
You know what I noticed, Greg, and I'm really interested in hearing what you think about this. I saw the other day that the New Zealand shooter's horrific slaughter is still on some sites, that you can still get up there and see it. And to me, this then contributes to radicalization of some people who, like this guy who just shot the synagogue up outside of San Diego, and who cited it. And so I do think it makes a difference if our social media perpetrates hate speech, allows groups to form that, you know, like ISIS and the like, who have radical extremist ideology. I don't think it's good. What do you think?
Well, I do believe that this is nothing more than a virtue signal. That's all it is. And I would be a hypocrite if I condemned Facebook for this, because I always say that social media, it would be good to be thrown off social media. Get it out of my life. I hate it. But it does seem like they're more easily inclined to police one side of the nutcases and not the others. And I noticed on other media arenas, they were portraying Farrakhan as far right.
Washington Post.
Yeah, which I believe in the media's world, there's no such thing as far left, because they're within that world and they don't believe there's a far left. Everything that's unusual or extremist is far right. But I have to say this, you got to beware. It's really cool to be labeled dangerous. And if somebody banned me and said because I was dangerous, I mean, rock and roll was called dangerous. So they got to be careful. Like, a lot of times people get attention by being banned.
This might help Alex Jones.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But I mean, Facebook, they banned extremists. The Dems, just elect them.
By the way,
we'll be right back.
By the way, I think if you look at Booker T. Washington, Marcus Garvey, I think Farrakhan's in that tradition. It's interesting to have a conversation
hates
at some
Jews.
point. Yeah, oh no, he's definitely anti-Semitic. That's what I would. That's not the issue. The issue was whether or not these news organizations had said he's a conservative right-winger. Whether they were wrong, that was more.
They issued a correction.
Well, yeah, but I just think, you know what? Look back. Look at him in terms of Black American life and thought. He's a conservative on so many issues. He's an anti-Semite. That's why.
Well, he doesn't like gays.
I'd say he's anti-Semitic. That's the bigger
Yeah.
point. What he says about Jewish people.